HIPPE uses the most up-to-date information on budgeting concepts, financial education, and credit information. We are educated professionals that bring the very best practices from experts in their fields for free as community charity.
HIPPE is not responsible or otherwise liable for any advice, guidance, or instruction that creates a negative outcome. Recommendations accepted by individuals are at the control and execution of those individuals, including all outcomes therein.
Aloha, and welcome to HIPPE's 201 Training and Counseling.
I'm Joni.
I'm Rick.
Let's get started.
In today's series, we are discussing make or break budgeting. This one's a big one. If we need to restore order to some chaos that's occurring in your finances, some kind of emergency that comes up right in front of you, or something you know that's going to come up to change an entire outlook on life for you, especially financially, we need to stop and correct course immediately.
Here's the first question I want to ask you. Are you experiencing a financial change in your life right now? Life happens. We all know that life can throw us curveballs. Here's a second question. Do you want to learn a new way to control your situation? This session is going to tell you all about that.
Absolutely. We need to figure out how we can get ourselves through the thick, to get back on course, to get ourselves back towards our goal achievement, anything we need to do from this point forward.
So, make or break budgeting. These are some things that can help you create a very strong budget. And it starts with goal setting. You need to determine if it's a short-term or if it's a long-term goal.
Yes, I like to use this type of style, stepping across stones in a pond, right? These are our short-term goals. Whatever we need to do and connect the dots, sometimes in succession, in order, from one spot to another until we can get to that long-term goal of just crossing the pond. It depends on everything that affects our life at the time and what other things, other influences need to be taken place in order for us to even do what we're trying to do to get across. So what are some examples?
Some examples for short-term goals are to eliminate waste, saving for a car, paying your bills on time, avoiding late charges.
Now you see, these have all kinds of other consequences, good and bad, that occur, cause and effects. So we're going to get into that in a second, but let's talk about those long terms, Joni.
So long-term goals sometimes could be debt payoff, saving for kids' tuition, retirement, and having a retirement for the future, or savings, simply savings.
Yes, and you'll see on all the classes that we give, the whole purpose of savings is to take care of the day-to-day, but it's also to plan your future investment strategies, whether that's a down payment on something or maybe investing in some other vehicle that's going to make your money compound or grow in some kind of way, like equity. Now, can one of these complement another? Yes. So when we tie into that saving for a car, that means that you don't have to finance it. Now you're not paying interest for that car. Or how about we use savings instead of a credit card? Now that what that's going to also do for you is going to keep your utilization low, keeping your score very strong, and limit your debt payments per month. Again, another way to focus towards savings. So you see, everything we do is connected. Every short-term goal is going to be connected one way or the other. A lot of people will say connective tissue, and it's true. There's some kind of connectivity happening between all these things that complement each other as long as everything's done right.
All right, so here are some things when you're creating a budget. I want you to focus on questioning every single thing that you're spending money on. If you don't need to spend on it, don't. So some of these expenses that aren't providing value should be eliminated. Your funds that you should save really should focus on your family, for yourself, just for your own welfare and your happiness.
Now I'll go a step further. Instead of the word should, you need to insert the word will. If it's unnecessary spending, then it will be eliminated. You have to get really down to the face value of what it is you're spending. And instead of saying, maybe I should, let's go ahead and turn it into a will. Let's make sure that we implement it ASAP. And it's going to begin slicing off things kind of like a dead limb on a tree. The rest of the tree will grow better if that limb is cut off. That's the kind of situation you need to apply to yourself for this budgeting concept.
When you question every single thing, assessing your housing situation is also part of it. Could you rent? Could you own? Are you moving back home? Are you empty nesting? The kids are gone.
You need a smaller home. Maybe you need to downsize, rent that thing out, sell that thing, get yourself into something smaller. Well, let's talk about the really negative effects where you just realize that you can't afford rent all by yourself anymore, and whoever was living with you is now gone. And now you have to somehow survive. Does that mean you go move in with somebody else? Maybe move back home, move in with other people? This thing happens to a lot of us. It's happened to nearly all of us out there in life at one point or another. You got to figure out if you're going to use that time smartly to use those funds in some other way that will concentrate towards your goal. Yes, we're just trying to survive and make it day to day, but you aren't going to go anywhere, and you're going to be stuck in that rat race over and over again until you finally get out of it.
Yeah. Making changes to utility spending, transportation expenses. Figure out what you can cut costs on so that will help you in the future.
Hey, if taking the bus means that you don't spend money in gas and you can still get to work on time, go for it. Absolutely. If you can drop off a child at a bus stop that will get them through the thick of traffic and allows you to return back to whatever it is you're doing, maybe it was work, maybe it is anything else that you're trying to do for your household, that you're time managing everything to allow yourself to be more productive, do it. So things can complement each other, and you got to take a look at everything you're spending money on. And gas has been always one of those challenging things.
All right. So here are some questions that you want to ask yourself when you're maintaining a strong budget. When you're assessing, are you expecting more income? Is there a loss of a job? Are there a change of living conditions? Perhaps you're getting married. Perhaps you're getting divorced. Maybe there's a baby coming.
Yep.
These are life things that happen every day.
And some are positive, some are more long-range forecasts. Maybe you're planning for that marriage. How many people plan for a divorce? A lot of people do, in fact, but usually the separation between a household is very abrupt and very on the spots. A decision needs to be made quickly. Sometimes it's for the purpose of security or safety. Other times it's so you can have a separation from something that might be causing mental anguish, and it's time to change where you're at in order to survive, to bring your balance back to yourself, not necessarily funds wise. Some of that might be moving back in somewhere. So you see, it's the positive things that you can forecast short and long, as well as the negative things short and long. You know, we mentioned in there, the child thing. And yes, some people plan for having a child. Congratulations, good for you. Many people like me didn't plan for any children, but when they happened, I was happy for it. But immediately I know the clock's ticking, sometimes earlier than 9 months, to get that plan going of, do I have enough money? Do I need a bigger place? You got to start figuring these things out when they come.
So when you're maintaining a strong budget, you can do something called hybrid budgeting.
Yes. Explain hybrid budgeting for us, Joni.
So hybrid budgeting is utilizing two types of budgeting methods or more to actually incorporate into your budget. We talked about incremental budgeting. We talked about activity-based budgeting as well as zero-based budgeting.
Yeah, so if we're starting fresh with a zero base to see where we're at, now we're taking that activity-based budgeting, sliding in there the high utility costs because some people like to run ACs or have holiday lights. We're sliding in there maybe some seasonal income that you make, right? Because we always say it's about the inputs, not just the outputs. You're using all these activity-based, let's throw in some value propositioning. Now we're planning to not spend on those expensive things like those 3 little elves on the cereal box that listen to cereal. Maybe we're buying the store brand instead that has some kind of other cartoon character that somebody drew on a budget. See where we're going with this?
Right.
So you can now change and modify your plan, and you can incorporate this especially into make or break, because now you're focusing on eliminating anything that's waste, even those activity things. Maybe, you know what? This summer, we can't afford that AC. We're opening the windows during the summer, or let's go find somewhere free to go sit in AC. Library, anywhere else. There are many times that you can find yourself paying for something and you got to stop and say, can I get this free somewhere else? Well, those kind of things are one thing. Let's get out of the house where we're not spending our electric and go somewhere else.
Go to the beach.
Right? And again, this needs to be assessed many times. So if you have the chance to get into a position that you can forecast out, first you correct yourself, right, with the creating of a budget. Now you want to make sure that it stays on the up and up. So even with all the other budgeting concepts, even with a hybrid budget, at this point, it's time to do that periodic check. Let's make sure we're still on track. Let's make sure that we introduced the new things that happen in our life. Maybe 9 months from now, that new thing shows up and it's looking at you. All right. We got to make sure that your budget's looking at that too. So it is important to do quarterly, seasonal, annual.
Sometimes it's every other week. Sometimes it's monthly checks of your budget. You just want to make sure that your budget is on point, that you're not forgetting something, that it's incorporated in, but also you're not frivolously spending on stuff.
Yes, so we take a look at what we spent out of that account for the time being, and let's see how much of that was actually going towards food. How about we find out if we were actually disciplined and get to pat ourselves on the back One thing that we love to talk about is goal setting. What if we establish a goal to say, you know what, I'm going to spend less than $50 on takeout food every single month? That's a really high achieving goal if you can do that, right? That means you're eating from home every single day, brown bagging it no matter what. What if instead of spending that $125, you spend $50, that's $75 a month. What if you added that up and you said, you know what, I'm going to reward myself this way or that way with that extra money I saved? Yes, that's called a reward factor, and you absolutely can apply that in the situation too. So not everything needs to be constantly forking away money, but those things that are out there that you feel like you deserve, how about we make sure that we deserve those things? How about we make sure that we earn them? They feel a lot better when we know we went through hard work and effort just to get those things, and we're not just spending willy-nilly out there.
Yeah, delayed gratification is something you should consider.
All right, this is an important one, the overhauling subject of this. So in the make or break, we now take a look at when we have to do that revamp. And now we've created that make or break budgeting. But guess what? Life does happen and worse situations will occur. Sometimes you'll get lucky and better things occur. So what are some of those examples?
Sometimes you get a raise or you get a new job that pays you more money. Those are some things that will help you with your budget and you get to adjust that.
Yep. Or in that more income portion, it might not be necessarily making more money, but paying off that debt. And then now you have that extra money. And if your family absolutely needs that to be incorporated in the make or break to survive, or maybe you get to upgrade to live instead of survive, that's still a more income situation. Or you just find yourself a way that you can now implement maybe a new form of maybe debt consolidation, debt negotiation, something that allows you to maneuver a little more freely. You're still tackling goals, you're still achieving them, but you're doing it in a smarter manner. So we talk about that in the debt management class about how we control those types of debts.
You know, when less income happens, sometimes you have less hours that you're working. Sometimes you lose a job. Those are times where you actually have to, again, reassess and overhaul your budget. Do we have to go back to zero-based budgeting and just account for just the basics?
Maybe we got to go into activity base and start slicing things away.
Sorry, no birthdays.
Sometimes that might happen where,
Mhm.
or that vacation that you planned on, that you saved so much for and you think you earned, maybe you need to postpone that another year. So there are long-term and short-term things that happen in even the activity base. And then of course we got value propositioning. We already know that's there. We are going all down to complete bare minimum of spending cost, even on food, to try to save as much money as possible. So we need to take a look at all aspects. And then let's get into those life changes a little bit more. What other life changes have we not talked about here? Let's talk about what happens when we have those emergency situations of health. Okay. We talked about a lot of things like marriage. We talked about having a child. How about those hospital bills? How about let's talk about some of those things. This is a time to air that out. What about those unattended, unforeseen deaths in the family? These are things that you have to prepare yourself for. There's reasons why you can find different things like life insurance, other things to support you so that everybody's not scrambling together to try to take care of these things.
So what about aging parents coming to live with you? Those are some life changes that you definitely have to adjust to because mom and dad, you know what? They're going to rely on you and they're going to need you to take care of the expenses because they're older. And those are some major, major life changes that happen to everybody out there.
Absolutely. And if we're not concentrating on those things that come out of left field and all of a sudden fall into your life, then we're in a situation, whether maybe you need to move back to home to take care of somebody. That's a complete life change. Now you're talking about changing your inputs too. You're changing the money that you're paying yourself every month, having to find a new job. Those bills are still there. The debt is still there. You're now having to offset that move, the what you're paying to the debt. You have to offset that somehow while you're making this move to a new job, while you're trying to take care of family. So again, you got to think outside the box. This has so many implications that when you use a hybrid budget sort and you start with a make or break budgeting concept, this allows you to really see things from a different light, maneuver a little more easier, find a way to solve problems rather than feel like everything's bearing down on you. And you know what? There's always somebody there to ask. There's always somebody there that you can just ask a question to, and hopefully they're there to answer a question. That's also what we're here for as well.
Yeah, if there are immediate changes that you need to implement right now and brace for that impact, you have to start with the zero-based budgeting and then work your way from there.
And hopefully you can catch as much as possible on a farther outlook that just makes everything a little more easier to swallow, a little more easier to plan, be able to walk into a situation rather than react. Well, the last thing is really looking at the easiest ways to be flexible with our obligations. Now, we talk about it all the time, and yes, you have to start cutting away the things that are unnecessary. And some of that is where you input your time as well. I'm one of those people, I say it all the time, that I don't golf and I don't fish. Why is that? I can't find the time to do that. There's too much other productive things I can be doing besides golfing and fishing. That's just me.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to trimming the fat, right? Eliminating that extra spending that you don't really need to spend on.
Yeah.
You can
And
make your own coffee at home and it tastes just as great as paying for it.
yeah, so if you can be flexible and you can find the time to do these things for your mental state that make you feel like you're taking care of yourself, you're being mentally fit at the same time by taking care of your stress, your anxiety, by doing these things that do take time and energy, absolutely go for it. Just make sure you're spending wisely that time and energy because not everything's about money. But then the peace and tranquility of yourself and your family is also important too. These are these flexible obligations we're really looking at. And then we have the major concerns. Sometimes people have to take back a car, right? Sometimes people have to walk away from a lease and get hit and slapped with all kinds of charges for breaking a lease. These things do happen. And when you have absolutely no choice, you have to insert that into the plan and you got to be able to get yourself back to a goal setting stance or else you will continue to live down here. So it's important that you do air these out. And yes, life will hit us many different ways. You have to find a way to separate that isolated situation from the rest of your plan, fix the isolated situation, and continue on your path. Lastly, will you make or break it? That's the question you need to ask yourself every day as you progress on all your financial plans. Will I make my goal achievements? Will I make all these things I'm trying to do with my life? Or am I going to continue to find myself in a bad situation? And hopefully you can identify why you're in a bad situation and fix that too.
Thank you for attending. To learn more about who we are, look us up on Facebook and IG, hype.education. And our website is www.hype-education.org.
Yes, check us out on YouTube. You can simply search for us by Hype Podcast. You'll see us pop up. And please do our survey. You'll find information on our survey through social media, even some of our links we have out there at YouTube. Check us out. Tell us how we can improve, and we can make more content that meets everybody's needs. Besides that, I've been Rick. She's been Joni. Joni, Rick, and Joni. We will see you later at the next class.